Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since my last update, but guess what? Now I'm back, and I'm back with the 177 700mm barrel and one of the big issues that I've had while using it in my FX Impact M3. I'll start out by showing you a clip. It's basically me in the forest shooting 10 shots, and I'm pretty sure that you'll know what I'm talking about after you watch the clip. Take a look. 700mm liner, 10 shots.
$984, $967, $958, $986, $990.
Battling with this gun.
74, 970, 967, 965, 977.
You notice it, right? A 32 feet per second spread. That's not like really acceptable. So that's why I decided to devote this entire video to how to fix that issue. Because this is gonna be a long video, I decided to make a timeline that you can see here, and now you can jump back and forth between the chapters that you want to see. We'll start out by talking about transfer ports, and after that there's a chapter about tuning, and that's basically because there's been a lot of people asking me how I tune my guns, and because there has been a lot of tuning in this video, I might as well do a segment about how to tune the FX Impact M3. After that there's a chapter about velocity and spread, and at the end there's a conclusion. So why not dive into the whole thing and talk about transfer ports. There are different kinds of transfer ports. One you can see here is the standard or the pellet port, and another one is this, the dual hole transfer port. And if you see them here side by side, you can see that the difference is quite big. And actually in the 177 it's a 285% difference. And if you're wondering what the difference is in the other calibers, you can see it right here. Immediately after I got the 700mm barrel, I installed the dual hole transfer port. And as you saw in the clip in the beginning, it was not like a huge success in terms of the spread with this, the 32 feet per second spread. So I decided to change it into the standard port, and immediately after just tuning the gun to hit the right velocity, I had this result. A 16 feet per second spread. So that's cutting the spread in half just by changing the transfer port. And for your information, I did exactly the same in the 600mm barrel, and I had a huge difference. So now it's not uncommon for me to shoot a 10 shot string with the 600mm barrel and have a 2 feet per second spread. So why change into the dual hole transfer port? Well, as you can see, in the hole in it is quite a lot bigger, and it gives a much bigger burst of air. So if you decide to shoot like the heavier slugs and you want to shoot them very fast, it would make a difference. But I recently did a test of the 20.5 grains NSAs, and I was able to push them with the standard transfer port at 980 feet per second. So I really don't find it all that necessary to change into the dual hole transfer port. So changing the transfer port back to standard was a huge step in the right direction in terms of lowering the spread. Now let's talk about tuning. It might not be directly on topic, but anyway, since I've tuned my gun so much during the making of this video, I thought it made sense to include a segment about it. And on top of that, there's been a lot of people asking me about how I tune my guns and what my philosophy around tuning is. You can always go to this place on the timeline and go directly to spread and velocity. But for your information, this segment will be released as a separate video in a very near future. And with that said, let's go on to the tuning and let me show you how I tune my Impact M3. The first thing you need before you start tuning your gun is to know what kind of velocity that you're aiming for. I've shot the 15 grains NSA before, and I know that they're performing pretty well at around 985 feet per second. So what I'll be doing is that I'll actually be tuning my gun to go like maybe 15 feet per second faster than that, so that I can turn down the hammer and make the gun a bit more harmonic. The gun is set up for the knockouts, and that means that I have the regulator at 110. I have the quick tune system at around, I can't see that without my glasses, but I think around 2.6, and the front valve is just past 4. So the first thing you want to do is to, of course, see what kind of velocity that you're shooting the new ammunition at. And before you start shooting, be sure to release the front valve. I would usually say that you should go like 1.5 turn beyond the fourth line, so to be sure that the valve is not reducing your velocity. Let's start up and see what kind of velocity we're getting at the setting that I had for my knockouts. I expect it to be quite low because it's a bit of an increase in weight of the ammunition. Insert your mag, get a new string, and I would imagine that it's around 900, and yeah, just around 900.
916.
It's around 916. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that we have to raise the pressure on the regulator. So I think I'll be pretty aggressive here at the beginning and raise the regulator from 110 and perhaps up to yeah, 125. Be sure always to remember that don't ever lower the pressure on your regulator when you have pressure on the system. It's going to destroy your regulator. Some might say that yeah, you can do it in a specific way without harming your piston in your regulator, but I followed all the instructions and I messed up my piston anyway. So just to save yourself the trouble, always degas your system before you turn the regulator pressure down. But since I'm going up, there's no fuss, but I just need to be sure that I'm turning it in the right direction. So let's see, I'm at about 120. Let's just check it out to see what kind of velocity we're getting at 120. Okay.
909.
Okay. Of course, we have to turn up the hammer. I give it 2 notches.
944.
944. I give it 2 clicks this time.
981.
981. Remembering that's at number 10. Let's see how high velocity we can get out of this reg pressure at 120.
988.
988. Let's give it another click.
997.
997. One more click.
1004.
Actually, that's enough of regulator, because I wouldn't need more than 1,000 feet per second to get the 985 feet per second. But a bit more, 20 feet per second above is no disaster. So let's see, we are at 14.
1009.
1009. One more click.
1009.
So you can see what's happening now is that the gun is settling in at 1,009 feet per second. So that's like the top velocity with the regulator pressure at it's showing 117, 118 right now. So actually I could have done with a little less regulator when I'm aiming for 985 feet per second, but it's no disaster that the gun is shooting at almost 1,010, because by turning down, as I said before, the hammer spring, it gives a much more harmonic gun. So let's turn it down a bit and see if we can manage to reach 985.
$997.
997, one down.
990.
990. I think it's about there.
981.
981. Okay, let's take a few more shots and let the whole thing settle in.
986.
Okay, so what I'll do now is that I'll take a few shots. I know that I'm like in the area around 985. I'll take some shots and I'll see where it kind of settles down.
$988. 986. 990. 988.
Okay, I took 4 shots and I have an average of 988 feet per second. So I just want to lower it just a little bit, and because turning the hammer wheel here will make it jump, I don't know, 5 feet per second or something like that, I'll start to use the macro adjuster here, the quick tune system. So because it's 988 feet per second, I want to lower it just 3 feet per second. So I'll give it like 2 clicks.
$984. 988. 986.
Yeah, okay, that's about as close as I can get to the 985 feet per second. So what I'll be doing right now is that I'll be focusing on the front valve. And what you're doing when you're turning the front valve is that you decide when the valve is supposed to close, because if it's wide open, the valve will be open much longer than it needs to be, because you want the valve to close just as the slug is exiting out of the gun. So the way to find out is to, of course, put this back on 0, and then you take a few shots, and then you turn this valve in. I usually turn it in by an 1/8 of a turn between every 2 shots, and the moment that I see the velocity is dropping, that's when the valve is closing too early. So when I see the velocity dropping, I'll just turn it 1/8 of a turn back, and then I know I'll have the right timing for the valve closing. So I know that I'm around 985 feet per second right now. So I'll start testing and see when to close it. So I'll start by closing it by 1 1/8 of a turn.
984.
One more.
984.
Same. Turning it 1/8 again.
986.
Turning it in again.
984.
I'll just close it a bit more. That's the end of the mag. Always have enough mags.
979.
Closing it again.
974.
So you can see now the velocity went down to 974, and it kind of lowered the velocity on the previous 2 turns that I did. So now what I'll do is that I'll open it a 1/4 of a turn, and hopefully I'll be back at around 984 again.
981.
81. The spring has to settle down. It doesn't give the right reading just after turning it. So
979.
one more.
984.
I'll just open it one more. And I think that's about
979.
yeah. And I don't think that we'll get any closer to a lower spread than we are right now, because we have the 700 millimeter liner in it. So now I'll take 5 shots and I'll show you the spread and the standard deviation.
$984. 990. 988. 984. 984.
Just a bit more.
988.
Okay, I have 6 shots here, and I'll just take a screenshot that I'll put up here. So as you can see, the average is 986. We were aiming for 985, so that's pretty good. We have a spread of 6 feet per second and a standard deviation of 2.4. I just want to add one thing to this segment, and it's about the power wheel and why I'm not referring to the numbers of the power wheel when somebody's asking me my settings. If you look at the gun, and especially if you look at the quick tune system, you'll see that it goes from 1 to 5. And if you look at the power wheel, it has settings from 1 to 16. But the thing is, when you're turning your power wheel, it doesn't make the whole range of the quick tune system available. So if you have like 1 to 5 here, this might be your range with the power wheel. So if you want to access like the higher or the lower part, you'll need to turn the adjuster on the quick tune system. So if I have my power wheel at 8 and I've been turning my quick tune system, 8 will not be the same as it was before. So if I tell you that you have to put your power wheel at 8, I don't know, or you don't know how much I have been turning my quick tune system. So by referring to the power wheel as I have it on 8, it might be completely different from what you have when your system is on 8. So that's why I refer to my hammer setting by the reading of the QuickTune system. I hope this makes sense, but anyway, I just wanted to add that. Okay, now let's talk spread and velocity. Let's start by rewinding to the part about the transfer ports. When I had just installed the standard transfer port, you said that my spread was basically cut in half. I went from a spread of 32 feet per second and down to 16. And that was at a velocity of 977 feet per second. So I thought, why not try to turn up the velocity to see if that does something to the spread. So I decided to turn it up, and the first test that I did was at 992, and as you can see here, the spread was down to 7. And after that I turned up the velocity to 1006, and immediately the spread was down to 3. And at the end I went completely nuts and I turned the velocity up to 1018, where the spread was non-existing. As you can see here, the spread was 0. So what I've proven here was that if you turn up the velocity, the spread goes down. And after doing that, I went out shooting with one of my buddies, Stefan, that you might have seen in a previous video, and I decided to test to see at which velocity of these insane velocities that the knockouts were performing the best. And it showed out that they were performing quite well around 1002 or 1007, just in between there. And I tested them at 96 meters, and I shot pretty consistent groups around 3 centimeters and even some below. So after testing out the knockouts, of course I wanted to test some other slugs in the same way, with the velocity going up and the spread going down. So I started testing the NSA 15 grainers. And as you saw in my tuning part, if you did see the whole thing, the spread at 986 feet per second was just around 6. So I decided to see what will happen if I do the same test and test the NSA 15 grainers at the same velocities as I tested the JSB knockouts. So I did that, and this is what happened. That's 2 feet per second off.
Nine hundred 97. 995. 997. 997.
I mean, that was pretty close. I'll take a screenshot again and put it up here. That's an average of 997, and you can see that the spread has gone down by 1. So not exactly what we were hoping for, but anyway, it just still shows that when you're going faster in the 700mm liner, the spread is going down. It's pretty close to the 1010.
1009. 1009.
It's pretty good.
1007. 1007.
Okay, so the theory is still that when you raise the velocity on the longer barrel, you'll see a smaller spread. I'll show you here that the spread is now just 2. I was aiming for an average of 1010 feet per second, so getting at 1008 is pretty okay. Not pretty okay. that's spectacular. That's really good.
$1,018. $1,018.
It's pretty consistent, right?
1,018.
I just need to see. That is like, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row at 1018. So once again, it has proven that by raising the velocity with the 700 millimeter liner, that the spread is in this case completely disappearing. Okay, so let's recap what just happened there. At 986 feet per second, it had a spread of 6, and I have to look here at at my notes because I can't remember all these numbers. But at 997 feet per second, it had a spread of 5, and at 1008, it had a spread of 2, and once again at 1018, it had no spread at all. So as I said many times in the video, it did prove that if you turn up the velocity, the spread goes down. And it also proves that if you shoot a heavier slug, the spread will be even smaller. After I was done tuning the gun, I did some accuracy testing at 34 meters. And as you can see here, the accuracy at 1002 feet per second was very good. And at 1007 and 1018, the groups were about the same. Not impressive at all, and nothing that I would take out on longer distances. I did decide to take the 15 grains NSAs to longer distances, shooting at 985 feet per second and 1000 feet per second. And as you can see here, the groups are almost the same. Slightly better at 1000 feet per second, but again the accuracy is nowhere near the same as it was with the 600 millimeter liner. As a final test to prove that the heavier slugs did have a smaller spread, I decided to test the 16 grain sands, and the results came out like this. At 958 feet per second, it had a 4 feet per second spread. At 967, it had a 5 feet per second spread. At 989 feet per second, it had a 2 feet per second spread. And at 999 feet per second, it had a 3 feet per second spread. And the fastest velocity that I tested the 16 grain sands at was at 1006, where it had a 3 feet per second spread. And as you can see, it was quite obvious that the spread came down when we went from 15 to 16 grains. I did test the accuracy of the 16 grain sands in the 700 millimeter liner, but it was hardly existing. I went to the forest and I did film something, but I couldn't show you a group that was anywhere near worthy of showing in a video. So accuracy was not good with the 16 grain sands. So what is the conclusion of this grand test? Let me show you all the slugs that I've shot, the knockouts, the NSAs and the sands. You can see here the differences in velocity and the differences in spread. I'll leave it here for a few seconds so you can make out the numbers. So the grand conclusion is, if you want the 700 millimeter liner to function well with a small spread, you need to shoot a heavier slug and you need to shoot it faster. But as for accuracy, it kind of stops after the knockouts. Because with those, the accuracy is great. I mean, shooting a group at 96 meters below 3 centimeters, that's definitely acceptable. But if you go heavier, you will see that the groups start to spread, and that the 700 millimeter does not like the heavier slugs. So I don't know if you can see it. I can definitely see it. My conclusion is that FX, we need a slug liner for the 700 millimeter barrel to make it work well. So that must be the final conclusion of this video. We need a slug liner, and if you decide to do it in the 600 millimeter liner as well, that would be pretty nice. So with that said, take care and shoot safe.